Welcome to this week's episode of the Rangeless Travel Podcast. We're your favorite adventure travel couple. I'm Britt, my partner Ryan, and every Tuesday we share stories and tips to help inspire you to book that next trip. This week, we're talking all about mental health and self-care while on the road and backpacking. As a disclaimer, we are, in no stretch of the imagination, medical professionals. So this is just opinions and for entertainment and what has worked for us and things that we've noticed about ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's start with prescriptions on the road, because I think one of the most important things is if you are on a prescription to help you manage your mental health, I think it's very important to take your medication. So before you go on a trip, do your own research. Look up the countries that you're thinking about going to and the countries that you're definitely going to, and find out what the rules and regulations are about the exact medicine that you are prescribed going there. No matter what the rules are for whatever country when you're traveling with your medication, first, always keep it in the prescription bottle that has your name on it. Don't take it out of the bottle. Don't put it in a cute little pill box or whatever. Keep it in the prescription bottle with your name on it, with your doctor's information on it, all of that stuff. If it's a medication that in some of the places you're going to be traveling is a controlled substance, make sure that you have a note from your doctor that, just reinstates that it's yours and this is prescribed and this is medically watched and given to you and you need it for your health. Also, if it is something, depending on what the medication is and what the legalities around that medication is in the specific countries you're thinking about going to, it's also a good idea to, with the note from your doctor, with your prescription bottle, with all of the information on it, is to have all of your doctor's information on top of it. So make sure you have his phone number, the nurse practitioner in the office's phone number,
emails,
any
faxes.
emails, fax if they have a fax machine still, the address of the doctor's office, any information that you could have is perfect. Now, if you're going for a longer time, you might have to get your prescription filled in another country.
Right.
Talk to your doctor. Your doctor is not going to be the expert on prescriptions in every country and the legalities of every country you're going to. Probably. He might be, but I don't know. Or she might be, I don't know. So you have to do the research yourself to make sure that the medication that you're prescribed and the compound you're prescribed is available there. If not, talk to your doctor. He can write you the prescriptions. Our co-producers are shaking. The dogs are in the room. The doctor writes you the prescriptions. You take the prescription with you and you can get it filled because you're not alone. There are humans everywhere. And everywhere there is humans, there is someone that is going through something similar to you are, so you're not alone in the medications that you need. But make sure to do your own research and depending on what you're prescribed in what countries and legalities around that. Lastly, if it is a substance that is controlled in a certain area, make sure you have the note from your doctor. You might still be able to get it filled in the place you're traveling to, or keep you might have to stop somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you might have to, I know Bangkok is a big place with a lot of hospitals. You may have to set up an appointment with a Bangkok doctor, bring your doctor's information. They might contact each other, and then you get a script from the doctor in Bangkok that's supported from your doctor, and you can go and get that filled and then move on to other countries. That's typically how that works.
Yeah, and if they can't fill that, then there's usually
something similar. So you can talk to your doctor about it, or you can also make an appointment with a doctor there and talk about how that compound is similar to what it is you're prescribed and try it out if maybe that would work for you.
Right.
So it's really just a lot of research on your part and then also talking openly with your doctor.
Yeah. And you can go to the doctors in these countries as well.
Yes, I just
pretty affordable.
said that.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's dive in, because luckily me and Ryan haven't had to deal with getting any prescriptions filled, because we've been fortunate enough to not need any at the moment or for long-term use. So Ryan, what has been your relationship with your mental health as far as traveling goes?
I think to answer that properly, I need to go back just to before I started traveling. And like when I was working all those hours with all those responsibilities and deadlines and all of that.
Mm-hmm. When you're working in New York.
Yeah. Then my mental health was really poor, probably for a long time. That's probably the longest stint of bad mental health that I've had in in my entire life, probably. It was almost like a year of like solid, like being depressed, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to see anyone, like eating like not good, like not wanting to exercise, not wanting to do anything to like change it. And then I guess we started dating, and that stayed pretty much steady for that period of time as well.
What stayed steady?
Like my mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when we first started dating, it was
because it was that like new
you get that
relationship,
new couple, like excitement and all that. But then that fades away, and then like I mean, we've been dating now for like almost 3 years, and then you go back to being normal, you know, and for me, my baseline was not good at that time. I was putting everything down to my job, my responsibilities, like all of that, financial stuff, all of this. I was all putting it down to that, like all my problems. And I was like, okay, we'll go traveling. And
oh, okay, I wasn't following. So what you're saying is you were blaming all of your mental health status and everything you were feeling on work,
external things,
like on your work, on the deadlines, on the people that you were working with, and you thought that when you left traveling, everything would be hunky-dory.
Yeah, hunky-dory, perfect. Okay. Yeah, and that's like just not the case. It never is.
I kept saying to like, he was so mad at me before we left, because before we were leaving, I wanted him to be set up for success and not have these unrealistic expectations. So I had said to him on multiple accounts, I was like, hey, Rye, just so you know, when you go traveling, everything that you're feeling comes with you.
Right.
Nothing disappears when you leave. So whatever you're bringing with you, it's coming with you. Like your inside baggage comes with you. Mm-hmm. And he was like, shut up.
I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear that travel was going to fix all of my problems. It was going to make like the rainbows come out and the sun be shining all the time and like everything, and it's just not the case.
Yeah. And knowing that was going to be a thing before we left, we started going to couples therapy.
Yeah.
We started going to couples therapy, and
with better
health. Better help,
I think.
I thought it was
BetterHelp.
BetterHelp. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, BetterHelp, and it was not.
It wasn't good.
It was not. It was the worst therapy experiences I've ever experienced in my whole life. So the first woman we get, the first woman we got, first of all, okay, let me backtrack. You fill out a form, and it's like, what do you want to get from the therapy?
What are you looking for?
What are you looking for? And I was really, knowing that when we leave traveling, that Ryan's already struggling with his mental health, and knowing from experience that when we leave, he's going to be bringing all this baggage, all these feelings, all these struggles with him. So I'm like, you know what? We really need to build a stronger foundation as a couple and a stronger foundation around our communication skills. So I really honed in when I was filling out the survey, we want to work on communication skills. We want a toolbox of skills to more effectively communicate. We want homework to work on and then come back and talk with our therapist. And I'm saying all these things. So I'm like, okay, I'm filling this out really good. We're going to get a really good therapist. We log on to our first session.
And we see a fog.
I mean, it's foggy. Well, when the woman finally gets her camera on, it's foggy. The woman looks like she's underwater. Her webcam is so dirty, but I'm like, don't judge. Don't judge. We're in therapy. No. We don't judge here. This is a safe space, right?
But she didn't know how to work it.
She wasn't a safe space. So we're talking about, one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is I talk a lot. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I talk a lot. And
I was asking for ways that I can interject
and jump in
and join the conversation without being bulldozed.
Yeah.
And the lady's idea.
Time out.
That was it.
Time out.
Time out. Or I could be like, shh, shh, I'm talking.
This was this woman. This was her solution. This was her solution.
This issue that we were having.
So we both got off that call, and we were like,
no, we're done with that.
No, we need a new lady. That was not helpful. That was the opposite. Mm-hmm. That was painful, and that was really bad advice. But, I mean, it got us laughing over it. So then we get the next woman. She is painfully mediocre.
Yeah.
Painfully mediocre, but the first one was so bad, and I feel like, at least personally, I was so afraid of getting someone else as bad as the first person.
Yeah, that we were just like, we'll just take this one.
Just take her. Yeah. It could be worse. It could be worse. Like, maybe she's good, and like, if we leave her, like, we can't go back.
Yeah.
So we get the second woman, and she's just like not really helpful. And I kept saying, like, we really want to work on communication. We want to better communicate together. We want tools to like initiate conversations and work through conflict, knowing that when we take off traveling, like, there's a lot of decisions to be made, and like decision fatigue's a real thing. So like, I wanted tools to help us navigate those conversations and like work together more effectively as a team. She just like wasn't doing that. She wasn't really helping with that. So we finished up our better help, and we were just like, yep, that's over. We wouldn't recommend it, but we would recommend therapy. Just not maybe with them.
No.
But we're big proponents for therapy. So let's backtrack. So now we had tried to get better. You know what? Not everything was bad. Let me pull a positive from there. What happened is it did initiate conversations, because after the therapy calls, then we did talk.
We did, yeah. We would either call each other again afterwards or stay on the app or whatever.
Yeah, so it wasn't
for like an hour afterwards.
It wasn't all bad, but the goodness of it had nothing to do with them or the therapists.
Yeah.
But okay, I digress. So knowing that and knowing we had these things going, I wanted to set us up to go on this long-term trip. So we get into Vietnam.
Yes, we did.
And Ryan's like, oh no. I hate to say it, but maybe Brittany was right.
Well, not initially. In the first couple of days, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is all new. This is great.
You're like riding that high of like, I'm doing it.
I mean, it's still scary, but it's also exciting and all that. And also, like, okay, so now I've got a bunch of questions in front of me that's like deep, like thought-provoking questions, like make me think, I have to think about myself. I'm like, what do I want to do? What do I want to see? Where do I want to go? What are the kind of experiences I want to have? And like,
what do you want to get out of this trip? What are you learning to gain?
And like, those are questions that I didn't like know how to even start answering at the time. And they made me have to look inside, and that was kind of difficult to do as well. And it kind of like made me have this like existential crisis at the time.
I just find that interesting, because I know as an Irishman notoriously have a lot of problems around the mental health. Like your unalive, I don't know if I can say it, but your unalive rates are really high in Ireland, particularly among young men.
Yeah.
And the culture kind of supports that, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, that the culture kind of really supports like men being men.
Yeah.
And that you shouldn't really show, like you really shouldn't show your emotions, and emotions are kind of a weakness.
I mean, things are starting to change a little bit now. I think they're improving things now.
Yeah, but from you growing up, you know, in Ireland, do you feel like that played a role in how you handle your mental health, and it plays a role in part of your struggle with being able to like look inward and answer the questions?
Yeah, I think definitely, because I'm a man, and like, we're programmed to like not look inside, not to worry about anything, like not to talk about your feelings, not to do any of that. That's considered not manly.
So how's your relationship with it now that you do look inward and you've been working on building the relationship you have with yourself? Like, how is your emotions around that kind of stereotype changed?
It's definitely improved a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely improved a lot. I still have a long ways to go. But I think going out and traveling and thinking about all these things does help with that. But it's also like, there's growing pains there when you're doing it, like for sure. But it does help in the long run.
Yeah.
To actually be able to like look inside and have the time to yourself. Because like, I was just too busy before.
Yeah.
Like, there was always something happening.
And then you start traveling and you have the time.
Yeah, because it takes time to get to places. You're sitting on a motorbike for almost 10 hours a day. We don't just your thoughts.
Oh, when we were motorbiking Vietnam. Yeah.
You know, or like you're on a bus and you're on the bus for 6 hours. You know, you got time to think. And yeah, it makes you look inside, and it makes you think about what you actually want from life and what your goals are, and what kind of experiences you want to have.
So when you started thinking about those bigger questions, when we first started traveling, landing in Vietnam, we're in Hanoi, you're riding that high of like, just started traveling, living our dreams, doing all the things, and then we get on the motorbikes. And now we're riding 10 hours a day. We're trying to film everything. We're trying to vlog everything. We're trying to edit things. We're trying to work. We're trying to pitch customers while riding on a bike 10 hours a day.
Right.
And you're sitting on the bike, so you're just like sitting in your own head a lot of it. How did that help or hurt your mental health?
That actually helped my mental health because I find riding motorbike very therapeutic, because I like that time to like sit in your own thoughts and things like that, and it tends to like give me enough stimulation in the like with things passing me and stuff like that I don't end up in too many like rabbit holes of like despair or anything like that.
Oh,
but I find I used to like, as therapy for myself, I would go on a motorbike ride here, like when I was not feeling great. If the weather was good, I would go and take it.
Yeah.
And just take some time for myself, you know?
I do know that you started to get a lot of decision fatigue while we were going, and we were butting heads
a lot at the start
because Ryan was like, I'm making no plans. I'm doing no research.
Right, I'm just going.
And he had this idea about me when I say, oh, I don't like to make plans. I just make soft plans. Ryan thought that meant like I didn't do any research.
That meant like you show up in a country and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
Which is what I was planning on doing.
And sometimes I explain it that way. I'm like, oh yeah, I just show up. I have nothing planned. But what I actually mean is like I have nothing booked.
Right.
But like I've done like 152 hours of research on like this one small village, and I've fallen down a rabbit hole, and I know exactly how they like harvest their rice and like random stuff, right? But Ryan took it at face value and was like, oh, she just shows up and makes no plans. So for months before we went, I was like, Ryan, make sure you're doing your research. And he was getting so frustrated at me. I was like, make sure you do your research. Make sure you look up different things you want to see and do. Make sure you see all, have like I call it a soft plan of the thing. So a soft plan for me is I look up a city or a village or a town, and then what are the main highlights? Like what are the main tourist spots that you want to see? What are a couple restaurants? What kind of food are they famous for? If there's anything stand out, so if they're famous for a certain kind of dance or a certain kind of music or a certain kind of like farming, or there's something that happens there that is special to that area. I look that up. Sometimes I also look up like what's like, do they drink beer or do they drink wine there? What like is, so I look up things like that. And it has nothing to do with exactly what I'm going to do. It has there's no itinerary involved in that, but it lets me know what's in the area, because when you don't do that, you waste a lot of time, you waste a lot of money, and you get a lot of decision fatigue. So you're constantly having to get there and then do all this research.
I did not do any research beforehand.
Yeah, so we get there and
I was just like, we're going to Vietnam, that's cool.
Yeah, and Ryan and I are butting heads a lot because I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't know. You've been here before? And I was like, yeah, exactly. But like, what looked interesting? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's what, I was just going to go and
but I think that led to...
be like a leaf in the wind for a while.
But I think that led to decision fatigue, because we'd get somewhere and then you would have done no research.
And then I have to make a bunch of decisions like real fast about what I wanted to do. But I mean, it's a growing thing. Like I think that I was first time long-term traveling. So yeah, most people would probably overplan their first time long-term traveling. I also knew that I was with you who'd done it before. So I was like, it's all the same, but it's not. So the other thing is you lose a lot of time without having like your plans, soft plans laid out. You lose a lot of time and you lose a lot of money that way because you miss out on...
So how do you think that affected your mental health?
I honestly don't think I had much of capability to go and sit and do research with the way my mental health was before we left. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just wanted to go.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot better at it now. Like now I will like look at to what we're doing and all this and research. But as for right now, back then I didn't have that capacity. I don't think I wasn't feeling up to much of anything other than getting out and going.
Yeah.
You know, and then I also struggled. The other time I was like really stood out to me that I struggled was in Lombok.
Yeah, you were really struggling really hard in Lombok with your mental health.
Yeah, so we just got to Lombok. To preface this, we were in Bali for like 2 weeks before this, or a week before this. And I was out surfing at Echo Beach in Canggu. And I wiped out right by the river and got a mouthful of, actually more like a lungful or a stomachful of river water.
That makes me a little bit
yeah,
naughty.
And I knew as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, I'm going to get so sick. I'm going to get so sick. And I did. As soon as we got,
and I did.
As soon as we got to Lombok, we got our place to stay. And I was like, I'm not feeling good. I was running to the bathroom for multiple days, not sleeping at night, sleeping in and getting these short bursts of sleep whenever I could, and then waking up and running to the bathroom again. Yeah. I was just exhausted and worn out. And on top of that, it was the first time we'd really stopped in a place for a while before that, and that we had our own setup, our own room, our own bathroom.
Yeah, that we weren't in a hostel.
We were private.
Yeah.
So there was that too. So it was easier to be isolated from everyone because you're in a room by yourself or together. And then also, I was definitely burned out at that point from travel. We had been
we were
pretty much
4 months in.
non-stop 4 months in, and I was definitely burned out at that point.
Yeah.
And I was not wanting to get up in the mornings, not wanting to go do anything, not want to see anything, just want to go to sleep and not do
Which was so hard for me because Lombok's my favorite place in the entire world. So I had people to see, I had things I wanted to do, I had things I wanted to show him. There was so much to do. There was responsibilities that I had to take care of while I was there. So I was in this place of come on. And then I also was sympathizing because I saw that he was sick. And then I saw that he wasn't sick anymore. And I was like, why is he still in bed? He needs to get up. And then I was in a place where I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm we're in Lombok. This is the place that I talk about nonstop. This is the place I've been dying to show you and you won't even get out of bed. What do I do?
Yeah. And then I probably stayed like that
until your birthday.
Until my birthday. It was about a week.
Yeah, so his birthday comes, and I've been struggling to get him out of the bed. So I'm like, it's your birthday. We're going to do a whole day. I'm going to plan the whole day for you, all the things Ryan likes. So I called on my buddy. He took us out on a boat to go for a sunrise surf at my favorite surfing place, and I knew Ryan would love it, and he does. It's his favorite surfing space too now.
Much nicer waves than Echo Beach. Well, less aggressive. Yeah. Nice, soft, pillowy waves.
Yeah, so we went to Garopuk, which is, on Lombok. So we went to Garopuk. We went surfing with a friend of mine. Then we go back to the room, shower, get changed, go to a nice breakfast at my favorite spot, Milk. Yeah. Then we went to go get a fancy massage and a body scrub and all the treatments because Ryan likes to get pampered.
I do.
Then what did we do after that? Oh, we went back to the room. We did an afternoon nap because sunrise surf is at 5 a.m. Yeah. So we did an afternoon nap. Then we got up. I think we went for a little motorbike ride down to the beach before going to.
We got burgers.
And then we got burgers and fries.
Yeah, for dinner.
Yeah.
Which I had been.
He loves burgers and fries.
I love burgers and fries, yeah.
So it was the whole day. And then after that, I feel that was the little bit of self-care day that kind of pushed you just out enough. Yeah, it just
bumped me out of my rut.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can get up, we can go and explore waterfalls, we can go to the beaches and things like that, and go and see the beautiful sunset at Marisi Hills and all of that. And it really did just bump me out of my rut. Sometimes that's all you need is just a day to not sit in bed and dread all the things you have to do. Just take it. You'd be better off rather than being stuck in bed for 3 or 4 days. If you're not sick, just take a day for yourself where you actually get up and go and do stuff just for you and no pressure on you.
Yeah.
And you'll bounce back a lot quicker, I think.
Yeah. With that, I think it's really important to remember that who you choose to travel with is really important. So, when we were traveling together, one of the benefits is, I saw that struggle. And to be honest, I didn't know what to do. But I did know that he was suffering from some burnout. I did know that he was suffering from some decision fatigue. So I knew that if I took those things off his plate, and like, again, we were in a place that I knew, like I've lived there. So I was like, okay, we're going to go to all the, like the best places, and we're going to invest in ourselves and have a really good day. Which, whether it was your birthday or not, I would have planned something like that. So we could go, oh, we went to yoga that day too.
We did go to yoga.
We went to yoga and like meditated and did like a class that day too. Yeah. Which I think also helped just to like breathe in that communal space, because who you're surrounding with yourself with is so important. So whether you're traveling with friends or a partner or people you met while traveling, like it's really important to have that open dialogue and that open communication, because we didn't even get to that point until I like forced it out of you to be like, I was like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, Ryan? Like, are you struggling with your mental health? Are you stressy, depressed, lemon zesty? Like, I need to know how zesty you are, so I need to know how much I need to take off your plate, and like how to help support you in bumping you out of this rut, because it's not always as easy as like just going and doing it and just being happy. Like,
no, it's definitely
not. It's so much more than that. But sometimes you can like just lean on someone a little bit if they're there, or communicate what you're feeling with someone, and they can help you navigate how to like feel a little bit better if you're just a little zesty.
Right.
Because if you're just a little stressy, depressy, lemon zesty, like it is sometimes changing some of your habits. It is sometimes taking self-care days and making those steps every day to stay in a better headspace.
Yeah. And then after that, like we did a few days around Lombok, and then we had to leave Lombok, and then we chose to go on the Komodo group tour to Komodo Island on the boat, which is like a 4-day excursion on a boat with like 30 other travelers, and everyone's like young and having fun, and like it's a good vibe on the boat.
You sleep communally, like on the deck.
In the same room. It's and also the good thing about that is like your entire itinerary is taken care of. Once you're on the tour, you're on the tour. There's no changing it. There's no doing different things. You don't have to worry. And then your food is also taken care of. So you're getting fed 3 times a day, and you don't have to think about where you're going to get food, any of that. It's just, you just have time.
You were really suffering from decision fatigue, because you're like, you don't have to worry about what you're doing. They take care of your itinerary. You don't have to worry about where you're going to eat. You were really suffering from a lot of decision fatigue.
Yeah. And like I brought a book with me, The Alchemist, that you got me before we left. And I had this is 4 months later, and I still hadn't read any of it. Like I think I got like 3 or 4 pages in, that was it. And like it was on this boat that I actually took the time to sit down and read it on the deck and like enjoy like being able to do that and what I could take away from that book. And it was just good for my mental health, at least. I don't know about yours, but
yeah, I hurt my foot and busted my chin open the first full day on the boat, so I had to sit on everything. So it wasn't really the best for my mental health.
No,
but it also wasn't the worst.
No, because you also had a lot of free time, but yeah, you were kind of stuck.
I was stuck.
And then, so that, like, I would suggest if you're feeling like super, when you're traveling, when you're feeling super like self-isolating, like don't want to get out of bed, you can either like take a personal day and just do things good for your mental health, like look after yourself, or like book onto a group tour. Yeah,
jump on a group tour and kind of sign over the decisions to someone
and then else. Like you're kind of forced to interact with other people. You're forced to like, and then if you're around people that are having a good time, you
just
pick
have
up
a
on
good
that
time.
energy. Energy is like, everyone like...
It's the vibes.
You pick up on the vibes.
The vibes.
From the people around you.
Yeah, so you get to like help the people around you almost help balance you out. You don't want to rely on them to balance you out all the time.
No.
But if you're in a little bit of a rut and you have some decision fatigue and you're struggling a little bit, a group tour, to jump on a group tour for a week or two during a long-term travel, I think is a big help. Yeah. You make so many friends on it, and a lot of times people end up traveling together after the group tour. So like you make friends and then you like travel for like a couple of weeks with them to the next location, which is really fun and something special to experience.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you notice in yourself when your mental health is starting to get a little like that you can self-identify?
I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, for sure.
I struggle with that one.
I never want to get out of bed in the morning. I'll be
My hygiene will struggle a little bit.
Like taking a shower or brushing your teeth.
Yeah, I know I won't want to wash my hair. I'll be like, nah, I can't deal with that. It will feel really overwhelming to like wash my hair. I'll be like, no, I can't deal with that. And that's like one of my things. Or I'll sit down in the shower. If I'm sitting down in the shower,
that's not good.
Not if I do it on like an occasion. So like there's a difference. Like sometimes like I get it done with a workout and my muscles are sore, and I'll sit down and I'll like, because we have like a tub shower in the house right now, and I'll like pop the tub and let some of the water rise.
So while like a shower bath.
So it's almost like a shower bath. So like while I like clean and do all my things, like my like legs are resting in like the warm water to, I don't know, because I know I'm going to be sore, so it just feels nice. But no, it's if I'm sitting in the shower every day because I'm like, this is the only way I'm going to manage the shower. Which again is okay because I'm managing the shower the way I can that day.
Right.
But if I'm doing it multiple days in a row,
then you need to keep an eye on it.
I know that I need to start actively making decisions to bring me joy.
Right.
And like taking care of myself a little bit better.
Yeah. And another thing for me is I would end up, but prior to going traveling, like if I was like in a really depressive state, I would end up going out and drinking.
Yeah,
with
you
friends.
leaned on that.
And like you could be out for like 4 days in a row with terrible hangovers that don't go away for like 3 or 4 days. And like I had to stop doing that and actively saying no to people and not going.
I think that's a really good point what you just said, saying no to people.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing to protect your own happiness and protect your own mental health is saying no and remembering that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah, you don't, like, that's how you, like, that's where you set your boundaries is with no.
Yeah.
That's, like, you don't have to go to every, like, event that's on. You don't have to go to every single, whatever it is.
Yeah, you don't need to go to every single thing all of the time.
You don't have to go to any of them if you don't want to. If it doesn't align with what you want to do, then just don't go. Like, people might get upset, but you don't have to go.
I find it's because
like
when you say yes all of the time and you're saying yes to everything, which I struggle a lot. Well, I don't so much anymore. I kind of just like don't really care anymore. But I struggled a lot for a long time with people pleasing to the point that I was actually hurting myself. Like I would say yes to everything every time, no matter what someone was asking me. I was like, of course, no big deal. Whatever you need, call me anytime at all. And I wasn't putting any boundaries up for anyone.
Right.
So what was happening is I had this plate that was full. I could not physically get done everything I needed to do for everybody else. And then I had no time to do anything for myself. So I was saying no to me, my dreams, and what I wanted to accomplish because I was saying yes to everybody else. And then I found at the end of the day, the moment I started saying no to people, most people kind of just weren't there anymore. They kind of just were dissolved. And the moment I was like setting these boundaries, people were just like, bye. And that doesn't mean like it was anything bad or that they did anything wrong. Nobody did anything wrong. Sometimes relationships just dissolve or evolve, but I think it's important to set the boundaries and say no for your own mental health.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the most important things.
Yeah. I struggled with mental health a little bit. Well, multiple, like in general, I struggle sometimes with my mental health because I feel a little stressy, depressy, a little zesty. But traveling specifically. So I traveled a lot in the country, in the US, and I traveled solo. And I mean, it was a little bit different because I'm like traveling, I was traveling a lot slower. I stayed places a lot longer. I was working, sometimes I was working very normal jobs. So I was living my normal life, even though it was an alternative lifestyle. But when I started traveling solo internationally, I was only going for maybe about 2 weeks at a time when I first started doing it. So I'd go for 2 weeks, and when you land in a new city, at least for me, especially if you're a solo traveler, though I think this is like particular solo travelers, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll just talk for myself. You reach this like epitome of like, it's like...
It's just, it's euphoria.
It's euphoric. It is euphoric. You land in a new city and you're taking it on and you're like, the world is my oyster.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here. I'm going to live my best life. I have 2 weeks to chase all my dreams and do all my things and all of this stuff, right? And I was only going for 2 weeks. So I'm living off of this dopamine hit. I'm living off of
all
this
the
high.
newness of it, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd go and it was very much a holiday.
Right.
Even though it was travel-y and it was backpacking, it was still very much a holiday. So I was doing this and I kept doing them and doing them and doing them. And then I went on one to Greece. Again, it's only 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks. And I get there and I'm like on this high and I get to Crete. This is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm sharing this story. I'm so embarrassed. But I've shared worse on the internet, but this, I don't know. So I get to Crete, and Crete's the big island in the bottom of like all the Greek islands. And I'm walking on these like old cobblestone stairs by a marina, and I'm looking out. I'm looking out into the ocean, right? And in comes a sailboat with these beautiful Greek god of men, like taking the sails in and like pulling the ropes. You know what I mean, right? They're coming in. So I'm not looking at these uneven cobblestones beneath my feet. And me, being the graceful goose that I am, falls down the stairs. Like, eats it so hard. And what did these Greek god of men did? Saw me. They saw me. So they're pulling the boat in so fast to the dock. I'm like, oh no, oh no. They come running off the boat. They're shirtless, with their muscles glistening in the salt sun, running. And they're like, oh, and they start talking Greek. I don't know what they're saying. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, English. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I was not fine. I was not fine. I don't know if I bruised the bone in my foot, broke my foot, whatever it was, but it was not fine. And not only that, I was bleeding a little bit on my knee, just like a slight little knee scrape. And my ego was thoroughly destroyed. My pride was non-existent. I had no pride left in myself. So I get up and I just hobble away as fast as I can. But after that happened, it kind of was the catalyst to kind of making me a little lemon zesty, because now I'm hobbling. Like, I can't really
so
walk well.
You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to do anything because you're hurt.
Because I'm hurt. And there were so many things I wanted to see and do. And I went to the store and like got some ibuprofen and got some like stuff and was able to go and do it. But like, it wasn't the same. And it kind of made me a little sad. Yeah. And like, that was the first time that I felt that while traveling. That was the first time I felt that while traveling. I really like the rest of that trip is kind of blurry. It's kind of foggy. It's not so clear. And then I went big solo traveling. Right? So I went on a big trip, one-way ticket, like the dream. I had been dreaming about this for years. Since the first time I ever went solo traveling, I was like, I want to go long-term solo traveling. That's what I want in my life. It's what I need. Like, that's what I'm going after. So I was traveling for a few months, and then I ended up flying to Taiwan. I love Taiwan. I think Taiwan is quite possibly the most underrated, like, not touristy country that backpackers skip, and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
In my opinion, go to Taiwan. But there's no real backpacking culture.
No.
So if you go there on a solo trip, you are going to be there on a solo trip. Not always, but that's how my trip went. So much so that a lot of the hostels and stuff are like automated.
Yeah.
So you show up, you text them when you get there on whatever app you used to book. I think I was booking mostly on Agoda at the time. They send you a code. That's your entry and exit code, and you type it in, and that's, so when you go in, there's literally no one. Like, I'd be the only person in the hostel.
Yeah, and there's nobody else staying there either.
Nobody else staying there.
So they just text you your bunk number, and then that's it.
That's
You're
it.
by yourself.
I was by myself. So I'm there, and now I'm struggling a little bit with my mental health, and I know because some of my other triggers are not wanting to get out of bed and self-isolation. So even when I was staying in places where there were other people, I was finding myself isolating a little bit. So I'm like, ooh, I got to start watching this.
Right.
And I mean, I was just kind of moseying along, but like things weren't that great. I did stop and meet up with one of my friends because him and his girlfriend were there teaching English, and he's my friend from home, and it was great. We had a great time. That really helped my mental health a lot. So then I leave the city that him and his girlfriend are living in. And I get the news that my first boyfriend, my high school boyfriend, had died.
Yeah.
From mental health. He was an addict, and, you know, he had that disease. And I had a really hard time. I'm like, okay, I mean, I hadn't talked to him in like 10 years. But like we grew up on streets that like in the same neighborhood, like our streets were next to each other. So like we have like childhood memories. So it was just like a lot. And then I'm all the way out there and I'm starting to struggle a little bit with my mental health anyway. And it was just kind of like layering it on.
Right.
And I think it's hard to deal with something like death when you're not home because you have no support system, you have no community.
There's no one to turn to at all.
There's no one to like talk to about it. There was no one else going through that. It was really just me on my own. And I was texting one of our other neighbors who grew up in the same area, and I was like, do I come home? Like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, absolutely not. Why would you ever even think that? Like, there's nothing you can do here.
Yeah.
There's no way that he would say, come home.
No.
Like, stay. Whatever it is you need for the closure that you need is already inside of you. Like, it's not going to be here.
Yeah.
Stay what you're doing and keep at it. Like, keep going. So I was like, okay. And I guess I just really, like, grasped onto that. And I grasped onto it for more than just that one way. Because I was struggling with my mental health before, and then that was layer on it, so it was really heavy. Layla, stop it. The dog's in here. And it was really heavy. And I think before I got all of that, I was struggling with my own expectations of myself.
Right.
I was struggling. I'm like, why am I not internet famous yet? Like, I'm a little confused. Why is nothing that I create good enough?
Yeah, you struggle with that.
I struggle
with it too. I mean, anyone who's doing anything creative, it's always hard.
Why is it not good enough? Why? And then I look even further and I go, why I'm not good enough?
Right.
This would be so much easier. Only if I was prettier. Only if I was skinnier. Only if I was funnier. Only if I was more talented. Only if I was all of these things. And I'm holding all these expectations on myself. And that kind of built on my mental health. And it took that, I don't know why, but like all of these things building, like I just forced me being so alone to look at why I was sad, why I was feeling this way, because I'm currently living my dream.
Right.
I'm like, I'm living my dream. Why am I sad? And I'm like, oh, because it doesn't matter. Even if I'm living my dream, in my own mind, I have these expectations that I should be hitting these milestones, that I should be doing these things. And because I'm on a timeline that I made up, it's making myself sad. And I'm like, girl, everything you need's already inside of you. Let it go. Let it go. And I kind of had that like epiphany one morning, and I was like, okay. Where I was in Taiwan, there was this beautiful, huge temple. And I'm like, you know what? Let me have like a spiritual moment, a spiritual day. I'm going to go to visit this temple. It's like out in this, like by this national park. You have to go through the jungle. There's all these like limestone cliff faces. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go. I think they're limestone. They might be granite. I'm not sure. But like they're cliff faces and they're trees and it's beautiful. So I'm like, I'm going to rent a scooter and I'm going to go ride out and it'll be like very therapeutic. So I'm renting a scooter and I'm in my own head and I'm, thinking about all these things and I'm working on letting go and like acceptance of where I am and just acceptance of the world. And it starts raining. Not a little rain either. Not like a drizzle. No,
downpour.
It's dumping on me. So as soon as it starts, I just start crying.
Yeah.
I'm just like hysterical crying, just releasing all of these emotions,
right.
The feeling of grief, the feeling of loss, the feeling of helplessness and having no power. And also, grieving my own expectations of myself in this selfish way. And I'm releasing all this and I see this dilapidated temple. This was not the temple I was riding to. This dilapidated temple, literally the roof is caving in. I'm like, there's nobody there. This thing has to be abandoned. So I pull up. There's this little lean-to. I get the bike underneath it just so like the seat's not as wet when I get back on it. And there's like this Buddha in front of me and the roof is literally falling down. So I just sit down crisscross and like I'm sitting at this Buddha just again like in my own thoughts. And crying. I'm still sobbing at this point, by the way. Like ugly crying. Like I'm Kim K crying. Like yeah, like it's just so much a release. So it was like a good cry. But also my head is just so loud with so many thoughts and feelings and emotions and processing so much all by myself. And I don't hear a man come in and until he's right in front of me. And I don't even know how long he was in front of me before I even noticed him because I was crying so hard like I couldn't see. And he is putting his incense, or he had put an incense into the sand in front of the Buddha, and he's saying a prayer, and he just comes and sits next to me. This man doesn't look at me. He doesn't, but he's just there. Like
just a random dude, or
he was a monk.
Oh, he's a monk.
He was a monk. Like he had the robes on and everything. He was a monk. So he's just sitting next to me. I like never saw his face. He was just there, and like his energy just like gave me this like calming, peaceful feeling. And the rain just stopped. The sun came out. All of a sudden, the sun's just out. Like it was a very like mystical experience. The sun's out. There's freaking rainbows in the sky. I try to like see ya. Like this man just saw me sobbing. Like I had to say bye to him, right? Like that closure. No, didn't look at me like nothing. So I was just like, okay. So I just like get up, get on my bike, go to the temple. There's like these giant white cranes like flying over the water. This temple is pretty far out and it's usually pretty busy. Like there's tour buses and stuff that go to this temple. There was like nobody there. There were a few people, but like not really. So I had this like beautiful temple, this beautiful experience, this like incredible release. And then the sun was just like shining.
Yeah.
Like it was such like an incredible experience. And I felt really good after all of that. And I was like, okay. And for whatever reason, having that release and gravitating into that statement that my friend said, that was everything you need's inside of you. I kind of just grabbed and held on to that with both hands and just like embraced it. And it helped me pull myself out. And the rest of Taiwan was incredible. And then as soon as I released all that, all of a sudden, there were other people around.
Oh.
As soon as that happened, like I was literally like meeting people at every hostel I went to, and I was already like making friends again, which was
maybe because you wanted to, like
maybe I don't know.
Your subconscious wanted to talk to people and see people rather than self-isolate and be happy to.
Yeah, or maybe it was just like the energies that I was putting in and taking out. Like I was putting out stressy, depressy, super duper zesty. So like people were like just avoiding me. Where then when I was in this place of gratitude and releasing my own expectations that I had just made up to punish myself, I think.
Right.
It was then freeing for me, and then I was giving this energy of being relaxed and being more free. And yes, I was still processing grief, and I think that's something that, you know, doesn't necessarily get easier, just more time goes on. So I was still processing all this grief on my own, but I was just letting go of a lot at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Which was a really powerful experience for me with my own mental health and my own being.
But in a way, that's sort of like taking like a mental health day for yourself. It's like the same thing that I was talking about as well. Like it does really help.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of our go-to methods now.
Is take the mental day and not feel guilty about it.
No, yeah. As soon as you decide that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing.
That's what
you're
doing.
You don't need to worry about anything else. Just
yeah. And if someone like, you know, if there's someone that's like, oh, can you do this or you do that, and it's not really dire.
Yeah.
Can it be done tomorrow? Tomorrow. Is there anything that looking before, like into your travels, that if you were to tell yourself now after coming back to kind of help you maintain your mental health and some self-care before you went, what would you tell Ryan like a year ago?
Before I left, I would say don't try and cram everything in all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Leave slack in your schedule.
Yeah, because you're just going to cause unnecessary stress, I think.
Yeah, the world isn't going anywhere right now. That it will still be there, so do not feel like you have to see absolutely everything and do absolutely everything, and take the time to maintain your own mental health, your body, your mind. It all requires maintenance. That's for sure.
I would say, for me, I would tell someone that's just going for the first time is release your expectations. You don't have to hit every milestone that when you look around, because like I know I look around and I'm in my early 30s and I look around and my friends have families and their careers, or they're doing all these things, and I look at the milestones and I'm like, oh, this is where I am. But then I remind myself, like, those aren't my expectations. Society's expectations for me are not what my expectations are. I have prioritized experiences, I have prioritized traveling, I have prioritized an alternative lifestyle since graduating from university. So all of the things I want, all the things I'm doing now, I once dreamed about doing. So just take the time and be thankful for all of my dreams coming true.
Yeah.
Because that's where I am.
Yeah, for sure. We're very lucky to be able to do what we do.
I'd also say release feelings of guilt. To help maintain.
I definitely struggle with that, for sure. Guilt is like my kryptonite. I definitely struggle with that a lot.
Yeah, I think guilt for not meeting others' expectations. I feel like expectations and guilt are almost linked.
Yeah.
That like someone expects something of you, then you don't do it because you chose to live a different lifestyle or you chose to go do something else. And then this filter of guilt comes in, and then you then once you feel guilty of two choices, you can do what you want to do anyway, or you can change what you're doing and appease someone else to try to relieve.
Which gives you like a temporary like relief inside.
But then ultimately I think hurts your mental health.
It does hurt your mental health in the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been working on turning that part off and just living for what I prioritize and nobody else.
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress, but I think I'm making big progress in that area.
I think it's a balance too, because I think it's a balance between, you don't want to do.
Yeah, you're not going to be like, absolutely not. I'm not doing anything that I'd never want to do.
Yeah, there's
like,
definitely
that's
a balance.
Extreme. Like, there's going to be things you don't want to, but like when you're running around looking after everyone else's priorities and forgetting about your own, that's the trap that you can fall into.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes into. It's almost like it should, especially if you don't have any, like, dependents, if you're not a caregiver, if you're not a parent. But even if you're a parent, I think it's important to make sure that your own needs are met, whatever that means to you. And for me, I categorize meeting my own needs as self-care.
Yeah.
So I self-care as bigger things, and I consider self-care as smaller things. So like I consider like doing my skincare every day as self-care, or being like I like a morning routine, but I have to have a flexible morning routine because we live an alternative lifestyle.
Right.
So like my morning routines typically result in waking up in the morning, doing some sort of skincare routine, then doing some sort of movement or exercise. I really like Pilates and yoga, but I also like running, and I like hot yoga is really good. I like going for walks, like hiking. There's lots of things that I like to do, but I try to do a little bit of exercise in the morning, and then I try to take my supplements and eat something healthy as well to kind of start my day. So I look at all of those things as self-care.
Right.
But then self-care is also like getting a fancy massage. So like I feel like...
Yeah. Or like getting 8 hours of sleep a night, or, whatever it is. It's different for every person.
What's your self-care that you do?
I like time alone. Like not lying in bed, but time alone that when I'm out doing something, like it could be riding a motorbike, could be like walking in the forest, could be out even working on the van. Like I've been working on that van for months now, but
Yeah.
it's almost therapeutic to me because it makes sense and it's like a system. So it's a machine. It's easy for me to understand.
That's your engineer brain speaking.
Yeah, rather than trying to understand people, which are far more complex. Yeah, and anything like that, like a couple hours of just solitude, but not lying in bed and scrolling. Because
that's not self-care.
That's not self-care. That doesn't help. It makes you feel worse.
Typically. It can. Unless you have a very curated...
feed?
feed of what it is that you are looking at, or you're searching a specific thing that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get into cooking because you're using cooking as your self-care and you go on and you're like looking up specific recipes, or you want to learn how to garden to spend time by yourself like outside, and you're like, I don't know how to garden, and you like specifically are like how to plant my first garden, and you are looking at that might be a form of self-care.
Yeah.
But if you're just mindlessly like scrolling like random dance videos, I don't think that's, unless you're a dancer and you're like trying to learn a new dance. But
it's relative, yeah.
It is. Self-care is going to look different for everyone.
For sure.
We recommend that if you are struggling with your mental health, if you are struggling with your mental health, please seek professional advice and counsel and opinion, and reach out. There are lots of resources. I will link some below if you are looking for them if you're in the United States. Do you know some for Ireland?
I do know a couple, yeah.
All right, we'll link some below for both Ireland and the U.S. And if you are struggling with your mental health, please reach out to a professional, reach out to family, reach out to a trusted friend for help to get what you need. If you want more of us, we are at Rangeless_ on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next week. Bye.